How you doing? Lawrence McKendall here, Scooberlicious Ultimate, and I'm here. This is a unique situation. We've got a group effort here, and the topic is Peeps Speak, and really this is an interesting topic I love to look at and talk about. I've played with a number of kids throughout the years, playing Ultimate Frisbee throughout the years, from when they've just started to when they are more advanced and beating a team that I happen to be on. And besides playing against these fantastic kids, which is a testament to the coach in the area, I've had unique opportunities to talk with the parents involved. Either they're on the sidelines of the tournament I'm playing in, or whether I'm at the sidelines as a coach and I'm talking to a parent of somebody I'm coaching. But what I found out, besides looking at these kids and how they've advanced in the sport, there are really, the stories are behind the scenes and the parents that are doing the heavy lifting. And I really want to celebrate this, and this is why I brought these fine people here to talk about what it's like to be in an Ultimate Frisbee household, what it's like when their kid comes home and say, I like a sport, and you're like, okay, whatever. And then what it's like to actually be in the community, this very unique community called Ultimate Frisbee. So I'd like to start out by introducing my panel today. And to my left, we have Michelle Syracuse. Hi, welcome. We have Liane Wong and Paula Chuck and Jennifer Carothers-Liske, right? Liske, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we've got Robert Newburne. So why don't you start out, Michelle? Who's your son?
So my son is Jackson Knox. He is a rising sophomore at O'Dowd, and he's playing there and returning to YCC for the second time this year.
Fantastic.
Okay. I have two sons. My older son is Rio Chuck, and he is 22. He played through high school. He coaches now. He's coached Berkeley High for several years. He's coached YCC mixed swing, Happy Cows. Sorry about that. Whoa. That could have been bad. And my younger son, Colby Chuck, played through middle school, high school with Berkeley High. Is at the University of Oregon right now. He played for Team USA with Worlds last year, where they won the gold medal.
And you're very, very proud parents, as you can see, and very much immersed in the community, which is great.
And so we share the same sons.
Proudly, very good, solid.
We do, right?
Yeah. Solid.
Jennifer?
You want to chime in, Paul?
You going to say anything?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
We're covered for today.
Okay, good.
I have two daughters, Chloe Carothers-Liske. She is a rising sophomore at Whitman College, playing with the Sweets there, the Whitman Sweets. And Lauren, who is a rising senior. She goes to Liquid Winding High School, but she plays on multiple teams. High school is Berkeley Haiku. She also plays for YCC's on the Happy Cows and girls team California Roll. And Chloe is playing club this year on Alchemy.
Robert Newburne.
And my daughter is Evelyn. She's a rising senior at Bentley, and she plays on the school team. I'm the new one here. She started playing last September, so she's basically almost got a year into playing. Didn't know how to throw a Frisbee before, so we spent last summer practicing how to throw a Frisbee, and just kind of picked up the sport and just went with it. So now she's moving on and looking at colleges that have it too. So she's really picked up the sport and adapted quickly to it. So
I have to say, Chloe was on the women's U20 Worlds team too.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Good. Very good. So the one of the other objectives was trying to find a mix of parents that represented the highest of what the Bay Area is offering. And what we're finding is we've got a couple of players here, parents representing players that are really, in my observation, having played with them and coached them, that they're going to be at that next level. But they're new to the community, and which is really going to be an interesting tapestry of voices. And this is awesome. So let's talk about how many are athletes in general. I mean, I think, what's your sport? Did you have a sport before you were introduced to Ultimate?
No, but I played Ultimate and Jackson outpaced me pretty quickly, so
Okay.
I stay away from him.
Okay.
But, you know, hiking is my thing.
Are we athletes?
Well, I'm come from basketball, cross country, and so ultimate frisbee was not part of mine. But I would say I was an athlete introduced to the sport.
Got it.
Whereas, where were you coming in when you were showing the sport?
I played competitive tennis in high school, and right now I cycle regularly, you know, and just work out in general.
But individual sport.
Yeah, no team sports really.
Good.
I played team sports in junior high and high school. You know, wasn't really very good at anything. I ride bicycles now, which is kind of a passion for me, but I don't know how to throw a frisbee, but I enjoy watching it.
Good. Awesome. No, you're always there. Jennifer?
I played basketball, volleyball, and I swam in high school, and college I played volleyball and basketball.
So an athlete coming to see that.
But not from, that's many years ago.
All right. But you have a reference from an athletic
do,
standpoint.
yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Robert?
Well, I'm an athlete, but everything's non-team. So I have a long history of all different types of crazy sports, not normal sports.
Not normal sports.
So a lot of it's being in a team or a team sport. This is new to me, new to our family. Having somebody who's playing a team sport is a whole different type of atmosphere for us.
Right.
What were your individual sports?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Please.
Name some: skydiving, hang
Fencing.
gliding,
Okay.
rock climbing, all the crazy adventurous stuff. So that you could think.
So where death is part of the
Yeah.
brochure.
Yeah.
When they
Yeah.
die.
I got
Yeah.
lower when I
It's
got
bigger.
older, and you know the rollerblading and things like that. But it was kind of the crazy one. So
Thrill seeker.
Yes.
yeah.
So
I know it
wanted,
out.
so I wanted to ask that question because the next topic is when your kid comes home or you hear a little bit about the sport, it's interesting to see that reference point from an athletic standpoint and a parent standpoint. So I want to start out with Paul and Liane. I mean, when your kid, how were they introduced to the sport? What was your reaction when they started getting more involved in it?
Well, my boys tell me that they were introduced to ultimate frisbee at Cal Camp, that it was one of the many sports they played during the day, and that the person that was leading the ultimate frisbee section of the camp was from Berkeley High. And then when they got to high school, they had a PE requirement, so they were required to take 4 semesters. And I think Rio just chose ultimate frisbee, and he liked it, and he needed someone to throw with. So, he got his brother to throw. So we have a park just 20 feet away. So they were throwing a frisbee on a regular basis, and Rio was already in high school, and Colby's middle school did not have a team. So he went to Longfellow. Willard had a team. King had a team, but they wouldn't take him because their programs were filled. So he was playing with Berkeley High when he was
6th grade or 6th or 7th grade.
6th or
That's a
7th
good program.
grade. Right.
Yeah.
Is that Jordan Rose?
Jordan
Yes,
Rose.
Jordan.
Right. Good.
Yes.
Awesome. Very good.
That's how they got started.
Awesome. Did you want to add anything on that one?
Yeah, they played no sports at all growing up. Nothing stuck. They were exposed to sports, but nothing. They liked nothing.
So why did Ultimate stick?
I think because it's inclusive. I think also it's such a new sport that everyone starts off as a beginner. No one is really good when they're young, at least back then.
Sure.
But now it's introduced in elementary school and middle school. But back then, if you were a freshman in high school, you didn't know what the sport was.
Right.
So everyone was on an equal playing field.
Sure. And I just want to chime in, as that was interesting, and I'm glad you pointed that out, is that when you coach basketball, football, any of the primary sports, you've got parents that have already introduced their kid. I used to play this, let's get out and throw. And it's very rare that you have a continuum that I used to play ultimate, let me get out and show my kid. So it's interesting that you made your point. For the most part, even the parents, everything's baseline. I don't know how to throw this. I don't know what you're doing. Have fun. So yes, I'm glad you pointed it out.
So it was more inclusive, and people, the nature of ultimate is friendly, welcoming.
Nobody was cut from the team, and everybody got to play. So that's important. They don't experience any disappointment right off the bat.
No, it's perfect. Jennifer?
My girls started in middle school. They were at a Montessori family school, very small school, and Mike Kinslick, who's one of the flamethrower owners, his son was there, and he said, let's have an ultimate Frisbee team. So that's kind of how they started. I think Chloe fell in love with it at YCC's because that year Val's like, oh, you should come try out, and I think was one girl who tried out. So they put her on the Angry Birds, and so she went to YCC's with that team that summer, and just kind of fell in love with the game there.
That's awesome. Michelle?
Jackson discovered it in 6th grade at Montera as an after-school enrichment, just a very casual, I think 1 or maybe 2 days a week. And then I discovered it at the same time with just a group of moms in Montclair, so that was fun. And he just started doing a lot of pickup games until we could find a way for him to play on a regular basis. And so when he transferred to EBIA, East Bay Innovation Academy, it was sort of a clean slate. It was a brand new charter school. They didn't have any sports and no one there to give us any strict rules about what we could and couldn't do. And a couple of parents who had really enthusiastic players like mine said, let's start a team. So we did, and entered in all the local tournaments like Bongo and Fog 5 and Spaghetti Western and State.
You jumped in deep.
We just went for it. We just went for it. Yeah. Why not? And then did that for 2 years there, and then when he was eligible, tried out for YCC and made that last year and went, and I would say that is definitely what lit him on fire. He does play soccer, and he has since 1st grade. But there's no comparison. He is so passionate about this. He's a good athlete. He's played basketball. He's played flag football. He can play whatever he wants. He says I say that because I'm his mom, but it's true. But nothing, from a sportsmanship and emotional component lights him up like this. So that's fun. That's fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of, and it's fun to support.
Great. That's very good to hear. Robert?
And with me, it was actually as the teacher who's the coach, Nick Calabrese, that you also assistant coach at her school. He basically made her join, so to speak, in the beginning. She loves it now, but...
she joined under duress?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. But
no.
It was one of her teachers, and she really... he's a great teacher. Everybody loves him. He was starting out the team a few years ago, and he really needed to get people to be part of the team, and so he bugged the kids and did it good-naturedly. And my daughter really was doing fencing, and that's what she liked. And he kept telling her, "Well, you're going to join the team. You're going to join the team." Tried to get her in 10th grade to join it. She kind of said, "No, team sports aren't my thing." Yada yada yada. Finally, at the end of 10th grade, I think had talked her into doing it. They played during lunch also. They can get PE credits by playing at lunch. So she started, looking at that, and the kids would play, and he talked her into joining the team this past year, and she said, well, I don't know how to throw a Frisbee, so I spent the summer helping her. We get out in the street and we just tossed a Frisbee back and forth until she got a handle on it. She could catch and throw, and she got involved in it right off at the beginning of the school year, and has just been hooked ever since. She's gotten into it, and I'm kind of like what you said, the camaraderie. She's not really played team sports. She tried it in 8th grade, a little bit of soccer. Wasn't enthusiastic about it. Most of her sports are individual sports type things. So it's been great to see her pick up on a team, the camaraderie, the friendships that gets created, the sportsmanship. Just the first time I went to see it, she loves it. They all get in a circle and they hug each other. It's like, the whole sport just gets you hooked, because it's not about winning and beating everybody. It's about playing a game that you really like to do, and getting out there and just playing. And like Woody said, everybody starts at the beginning, and she never felt in her mind. I don't think she ever felt like, oh, I'm a new person and somebody can play better than me, so therefore I can't play. I mean, everybody accepts you right off, and I think that's what hooked her into the sport, is that she could be part of it from day one.
Right. That was well said. You took a number of questions right out of my mouth. So thank you for illuminating so eloquently. So what about team sports? I mean, having played basketball and football, team sports was a natural progression going to ultimate. There was nothing foreign to me. But coming from somebody that, from an individual athlete standpoint, or having your kids not understanding team sports, or maybe they only know individual sports, what does that look like? From a parent standpoint, what did it look like from your kid's standpoint, going and jumping into a team sport with the dynamics of ultimate Frisbee?
Well, I could say right off the bat, instead of rooting for one person, I was rooting for a whole team now. So, I mean, I looked at all the kids as being the same. They're all out there to play and have a good time. Enjoy it. So it wasn't so much as just, okay, my daughter scored a point or my daughter made a good play. It was like every time somebody made a good play, you were out there just becoming part of that. And in the past, even though in the individual sports there was competition, you were always on the sideline. You were there because you wanted your person in an individual sport to perform as best as they could. It wasn't about all the teams, the camaraderie. And here it's like everybody. You want everybody to be part of it and be enthusiastic about it. And you feel bad if somebody else on the team feels that they did something wrong. You're just like, no, that's okay, pick it up and keep going. So it was a whole different thing to me, because everybody's patting everybody in the back saying, hey, this is great, let's just keep working and we'll do better. So to me, that was what the team changed to me, was a team.
Liane, you or Paul? Go ahead. Especially coming from an individual bike riding situation.
I think, when we sent our boys away to college, when Colby finally chose Oregon, I knew that he'd have a built-in community that he could be with, right away. That you would have the people you go to classes with, people, they have things called FIG, interest groups. You'd have, the people on your floor in the dorm. And so I said, there's always something to fall back on. And the ultimate community, the bonds that they've formed, they're pretty lifelong. When they come back during the summer, they want to see each other. They go and they do things together. And, there's Colby's class was spattered all over the country, at Tufts and Cal Poly, but they still get together. The friendships run really deep.
So do the friendships run in a different way, deeper, in a different sort of depth with cycling versus what you're seeing in ultimate Frisbee?
Oh, definitely. Cycling is kind of a selfish sport. It's all about you. I was fortunate to ride on a really good team, and everybody, we just cared if we won. It didn't matter who it was. But I think the few years I had with these individuals was very much like ultimate community, in the sense that you care. It's a total outcome.
Right.
It's a total outcome.
Good.
And I don't think that's true in all sports. And then the other thing is the community of parents too. Like I said, I still haven't met a parent today that I don't like.
Yeah, it's just a bonus.
Yeah.
To have your child in ultimate Frisbee and get to meet all of these great parents. And look forward to seeing the parents as much as watching your child play.
Sure.
Right.
And when we went to Poland last year, we traveled with Jennifer, and it was so fun to be in Europe with parents from Berkeley.
To watch ultimate Frisbee.
That's
wow. I'm in Poland to watch plastic fly through the air, and that's the truth.
No, it's amazing. The people from YCCs, the boys.
People don't know YCC. What is that?
Yeah, that's the youth club championships that they have every year in Blaine. But teams come from all over the country, and you meet parents on other teams. And when I go to college tournaments now, I know parents from all over the country, from YCC teams, from world teams, from Western teams. And we could be staying in any random hotel in South Carolina, and someone from North Carolina, oh, Ed, how are you? I haven't seen you, and how things going. And it's really strange that you see them maybe once every 2 years, but the friendships,
Sure.
it's like, oh, it's like you saw them yesterday. It's something deeper than just being superficial, and it's because of our children, have brought these grown-ups together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great.
Jennifer?
Well, I think everyone said it really well. I mean, it's the community and the camaraderie that you have with a team sport is very different than and ultimately, because Lauren does play, and Chloe did cross country, which technically is a team sport, but it's a different feel in ultimate frisbee than lacrosse and basketball. Again, you see your friends on the sidelines, and you have a good time with everyone, and the kids love it. And they, again, I like the fact, like when we were at Worlds, and it's not just local community, it's world community. There are people all over the world that they are friends with on Facebook and all those kind of things. It's amazing.
Cool. Actually gives your Facebook page a little bit more flavor when you have international interaction. That's very cool. So you're new to the sport. You're very active. So let's talk about team sport. Let's talk about community, because when you were trying to get people together, Spaghetti Western, I know that you were very much an active voice in your community. So let's talk about team sport. What Jackson's perception, your perception of team sport as he was jumping into it, and we'll get in the segue into community.
Yeah, as I was listening to everyone else's response, it occurs to me after, like I said, Jackson has played soccer and basketball, and he's played soccer for a very long time. And two things strike me about ultimate, the sport and the community. And one is how fast you can excel and grow versus soccer. That's the thing I have the longest experience with, and I have two kids both playing competitive soccer right now. And it's like warp speed by comparison in ultimate. Not only in the athleticism that they start to demonstrate, but also the opportunities. Yeah. Getting to go to something like a national after only playing for 3 years or 2 years. That does not happen in soccer. Mm-hmm. And it occurs to me that I think there's something about the self-officiating, establishing a certain level of trust and respect from the moment they meet each other and they play the first time, that gives them room to stretch and grow. They take chances. Mm-hmm. You're more guarded on a soccer team if you think someone's going to yell at you, whether it's a teammate, a parent, a ref, and that doesn't happen in ultimate. Everybody legitimately, I know that we're just getting in, like you say, we're not at world and this sort of thing yet, but it just feels like they really have your back. Not only do your teammates, your opponents, and that just gives me chills. It gives me chills to think about it, to talk about it. The first time I saw a spirit circle, I was like, "What is this?" Yeah. Are you kidding me? It is so. It is just so. It's so impressive and so supportive of these young athletes who, and I think there's a lot of confusion from people that are just like, are they really athletic? What are they doing? What is this sport? They don't understand it. But once you see and you understand that a lot of these kids are extremely athletic, and because of it, they could be a lot more, cocky about it, and like you said, selfish. Like, it's about me. I want to excel. I want the spotlight on me. I want to be the star. And the kids talk about it. I agree with you that I root for the whole team. I'm just like, oh, that's great. I don't look at the kids talk about, oh, that guy's the best handler, or that one's the best cutter. I don't even see that. I just see camaraderie and growth.
On both sides.
On both teams.
Yeah, that's the key.
It's amazing.
I mean, you usually see maybe one team gets along with their own team, but to be as friendly with the other side is like, oh, I made a mistake. I mean, I fouled you. I mean, they call their own foul sometimes when somebody wasn't even going to call them. So, I mean, you see, I don't think it's easy to describe in words. It's a feeling. Mm-hmm. That's the best thing I could say is, for me, it was more about a feeling that you get. Unless you've played or unless you've watched it and understand the game and the kids and the way they play and how they play and what they think about it. Everybody likes to win, but it's not about winning. It's about playing. Unless you've watched it and you're part of it and you get involved in it, it's hard to understand that feeling. It's not a feeling you get from a lot of other things. That's the hard part.
So when I try to convince my friends that this is a legitimate sport, you need to come out to really appreciate all the nuances, the self-officiating, the athleticism that's involved. And so I talk to you guys. So what's that area? And I think the obvious area is the self-officiating, spirit of the game, spirit circles. Can you speak to that? I mean, social emotional learning, I know Val would talk about that. There's different components that are very helpful for a young athlete to really embrace what they can benefit from the sport. But spirit of the game, what can you say about that, Liane?
Oh.
Is that important?
I think, it is. And when I think
about
about
before
it...
you jump in. Okay, let me interrupt just for a second. Coming from basketball, when you have a foul, you call a foul. And you okay, that's a foul, and you go on playing. Spirit of the game has higher implications beyond just simply self-officiating. So I want you to, if you can wax just a little bit about it as you're about to. I interrupted you. I just want to put a bow on that.
Well, spirit of the game, I think it's just deep. It's about being a good human being on the field and being genuine and being honest and calling it like it is. Not thinking of yourself, but just playing in the spirit of the game.
So how long did it take you to come to that realization? Because that's a very seasoned observation. Was that your immediate observation of that, or do you think that was just a novel part of the sport?
No, I think I saw that early on because it's so unique and heartfelt. It's like, wow, what the heck is going on? You know, they're hugging each other. You know, they're hugging their opponents after a game. They
give out little gifts and
prizes. They give their opponents gifts.
They play games.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get, because from it's one thing to be an athlete new going, what the heck is going on? It's another thing to be afar going, what is this sport? So I'm trying to find your gradation of coming to this very wise observation.
Right. And when I think about it, like you said, it gives you chills sometimes that seeing some of the really close games where it was so close and emotional, and one side loses, but then they come together at the end, and they're all crying. They're crying for each other, right? Because one team had to beat the other team. They're happy, but they're sad, and as a parent, it makes me appreciate, but also kind of feel emotional about what the kids are going through. Like, I feel like I'm one of them. Yeah. You know, it's so, I don't know, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
It's so great.
If I can kind of, I see it as, because I noticed it right off, it's a character building for these kids. They learn, not only do they call their own foul, or somebody else will call foul, and if they disagree, they discuss it. You know, you don't see fist flying, you don't see anything, they sit and talk about it. And even if they disagree, which is part of life, I mean, nobody's ever going to always agree with everybody. Part of life is figuring out a compromise. So if they can't agree, you know, the disc goes back to the last person who had it, and you just play it again. You know, you don't see that somewhere else. You have somebody make a decision, and somebody's wrong and somebody's right. Here they just agree, they disagree, and let's just start over from that spot back there, and we'll start again. So you don't have this, nobody ever wins and loses. That's character building to me, because part of life, as we go through life, and some of us that have gone through, realize that you always run into a wall, you run into a roadblock, you run into something that doesn't go your way. And you have to learn how to react to that and how to move on. And right off the bat, this sport's teaching these kids, this is what I'm trying to kind of build on you, is a character. A way to respond to real world things, but they're doing it in a sport.
Yep.
And they're getting that message through a sport in their own way. So I'm kind of like you. It's kind of a way of building on to that character.
Good point.
Yeah, and as a parent, you can take what happens on the field and convert it to things that are going on off the field and say, oh, well, in Ultimate, remember, this is how you handle it. You can do the same thing.
Right.
You can make a literal translation,
Right.
or you can find that when we get into the social emotional learning component, when they're trying to champion ultimate Frisbee in the schools, that these are intangibles that can translate in life. And you may not be able to go, that happened to ultimate, but these are things that can seed you well as you grow through and deal with life and bump up into things.
Well, I've seen, especially for girls, because I think this skill is not always instinctive for them. I think that it's a little bit harder for them to, argue. It's usually, okay, I'm sorry. It comes out a lot, that rather than saying, no, I'm not sorry. I did this and I don't agree with you, and advocating for themselves in a way that, they can be wrong or right. They can work it out. And I've also seen too where younger players if they're playing with mixed or older players, it's really hard to go to an older player or someone that you've looked up to, or even an adult, and say, no, you fouled me. That was a foul. I'm calling that on you, or calling something that they didn't feel was appropriate or right on the field. That's a huge skill that I think a lot of kids don't ever get the opportunity to work on, because they just it's just not in their life, a lot, or it gets overlooked.
Right. And this is a type of sport. This is a type of sport where when that happens and they go to an adult or somebody older to tell them you fouled, they don't feel like there's going to be a repercussion back from the adult, because that's the adults playing the sport in the same mentality that they're playing. That this is okay. Maybe I did do something. They don't feel like they're going to get punished or yelled at by the adult, because the sportsmanship's at all ages. I mean, it translates through. So.
Well, on the field, if you're a young adult or an adult, the rules are the same for both of you.
Right.
In life, I'm your dad, and this is what the rules are.
Right.
And on the field, you have a chance to.
Is there spirit in the game in your household? Not that type of party.
Dictatorship.
Every night, right?
Let me tell you what you did really well.
I've never said that.
As my older one would say, you're not my dad. Oh, wait a minute. You are my dad. Yeah.
That's so fun. Very nice. So maybe go back to your observation. So, a couple things. One, how long did it take them to be comfortable with making a call on a senior member or one of their coaches or somebody?
My children do not have problems with it. They've always been very vocal and pretty good advocates for themselves. But I love seeing it when there's other players or maybe girls who were not comfortable doing that, and then they become very comfortable. Like calling fouls or calling plays that they didn't think were within the rules. And knowing the rules. I mean, there's so many rules in all of that.
Is the most
knowing
important.
the rules. Yeah. And the other thing too is, I think sometimes spirit of the game gets misconstrued with being nice, and that's not.
That's a great point.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's.
I agree.
It's very spirited to be a good athlete out there and play your best, and to call what you feel is. And that doesn't mean you're a bad spirited team if you call fouls. I think it's just part of the game, and I don't think that's always understood in when people give spirit scores and those things too.
Absolutely.
So sometimes I think spirit of the game is misconstrued as like the nice team, and it's not always.
I agree. That was my ignorance on that one, especially when I went to a tournament and you have to grade a team on so many different parameters, the spirit of the game, and I thought it was nicety, and it sort of went down from there. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of misnomer when it comes to that. I'm glad you pointed it out. But I guess it didn't take long for your children, your daughters, to embrace the sport.
Well, I think they, of course they developed that. I mean, it wasn't something, but I think that they're much more comfortable doing it now. And I'm just glad, because they can advocate for themselves as women and, moving forward in this society, that they know how to say, this is not okay, and I'm going to, call you out on it.
That's very good. So we started off with you, but what's your larger take of spirit of the game as you understand it?
Like I said earlier, and what we're talking about here with making the calls when you need to, what's different is it's done with respect. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a tremendous life lesson, that there are going to be times when you have to say to someone, I'm not okay with what happened, but that doesn't mean, I'm calling you a bad name or I don't like you anymore or whatever. I'm just, let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. And it's very civilized. It's very respectful. And that I just think it's invaluable. And if you can teach a young person at a very early age that don't be afraid of conflict.
Yeah.
Walk right up to it with respect.
Yeah, and that's good because a lot of people who are maybe timid, this is a sport that offers the ability to, as you said, walk into conflict. You're able to voice your opinion, see a play, discuss it. There may be gray areas that are resolved with going back, but you're able to speak up and be heard. Mm-hmm. Anybody have shy kids that this was a nice forum to see them be more vocal?
My daughter is pretty, she'd say, introverted, so this was a chance for her to kind of come out a little bit. She likes being part of the team, and I think she still has trouble, if somebody, she thinks fouled or something. I think she's still working with that, but, it takes time. She's new, and, at some point you're still learning the sport and what's okay and what's not. She watches, she observes, but she's come out a lot where she's willing to say, hey, this isn't right, or, even in practice now, she'll pick on the other kids and, okay, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that, or that's not part of the rule. So I hear her all the time telling me, this is part of the rule. And we'll watch the games. I mean, that's the one thing that's changed with us is in our household is, I know, we haven't really gotten into that, but one of the things is that she's always got the YouTube on or something, and I'm always watching international or something, watch this. And, oh, that was a good throw, broke. That wasn't right. They're not supposed to be doing that. So learning the rules is key, and you see that development. And hopefully I'll see it even more over the next year, because as she moves into next year, she's going to get a little more comfortable with her own abilities and her own knowledge, I think. So it's important.
Thanks, Robert. So I want to shift gears just a little bit, and we're going to start addressing some of the more seasoned parents here in the communities and talk about community. Ultimate Frisbee community, not only just from a standpoint of being maybe unique and trying to understand, but you're part of a community at Berkeley High that is a well-oiled machine. But I want people and parents that may look at this video down the road to see what does that look like to be part of an active community? What are the challenges? What are the things that you feel that as members of a community that's a very successful one, what are the challenges for the new people who are part of communities that are just starting up, trying to get built?
Well, Berkeley High hasn't always been a well-oiled machine.
Yep.
I mean, I think when we first exposed to it like 6 or 7 years ago, the program wasn't as big. There weren't as many kids coming out. Now there's 90 or 100 coming out every year. You only needed one coach. Now you need 7 or 8. It took a long time, and I think 6 or 7 years they didn't have parents, bringing food and doing transportation. They all jumped in high schoolers' cars and they went to a tournament. And that's what some of the former coaches were telling us that played at Berkeley High. But adding parent support in there all of a sudden meant, we can rent vans, we can go to Oregon for a tournament, we can, the country is our playground. And so I think the fact that parents got involved, Berkeley High's program really grew because you can't, if Jordan Rose was a coach, one person can't do it all. It's we have a whole team of people and not enough stuff gets done.
Right.
So I think it was just active involvement. The kids that moved into the program, I think the parents are just really excited. I mean, we were, that our kids finally found something that they enjoyed. So it all starts, I think, with a lot of family and parental support to get programs off the ground.
Absolutely. So what would be the takeaways? What would be sort of the suggestions if you're building a program from a team standpoint, even from a parental standpoint, if you're building a community? What are some of the things that need to be done?
There's so much that goes on.
So maybe the top 5.
Well, you need field space.
Okay.
It's huge.
That's always a challenge. So given you had that.
Yeah. Well, you need the people, that the bodies there to, actually. Fundraising is another huge thing for, because it is, we try to keep it as inclusive, but now to do, you have new uniforms every year, and they're, $25, $35 for a jersey, and you want reversibles, and you want warm-ups, and so that stuff costs money. You need to go to travel, and if you're traveling, there's a cost of the travel to Chicago or to renting vans. Those are great things, and I think it makes for a more cohesive team. But it's not free, and I don't think any school gives. It's not like a varsity sport where the school will support the team. So everything is basically out of pocket or done from fundraising.
Okay, so
even on the college level too.
Okay,
so it's not just high school.
What would be a tip if someone's trying to build something from scratch? What would be the 3 things from a parent standpoint? Let me give some props to Robert Newburne. He saw that our team wasn't necessarily being acknowledged as a team, and he stepped up generously and donated jerseys, which is great. So we have a very generous parent, and thank you very much for doing that. So is it something that you invest in reversible jerseys so it's cheaper to do, or you fundraise for jerseys and no shorts? I'm trying to give some takeaways for anybody looking at this that would be helpful to build a program that's on solid ground.
I think first you would want to invest in your coaches, because that's the big thing. You need to have coaches. And so I think your coaches do the coaching, and the parents and the community have to do the rest. So I think that they shouldn't have to worry about rostering or getting on the medical forms or all that stuff. Those kind of things have to someone else, because that takes a lot of time, and they're most of their time is volunteered, so you have to make sure that they have the time to be and coach the children and divvy up the rest of the duties to the parent community, or captains, or whoever.
So if you have a coach who's bringing parents together, how would a coach delegate? You find up someone like Michelle Syracuse to go, you're the point person, and then she delegates?
Yeah. I mean, that's how it's done in most of the teams that
I don't think that the coach just coaches, so the coach doesn't ask a parent to do something. There's a separate parents group that says, okay, we have a treasurer, we have a transportation coordinator, we have a fundraiser.
These are all individual
rosterers.
We have first aid. Right. So what Berkeley High did, with that Liane started was, at the first practice, they invite all the parents out. They give them a packet of information. The coach talks to them. It has all the forms they have to fill out, spells out what the dues are. And so for $300 worth of dues, that covers uniforms. It covers tournament fees, transportation, and you have to join USAU on your own. But everything's spelled out, a checklist. But that evolved 3 or 4 years after.
No,
it was, we weren't getting the forms back, So all of a sudden it was, okay, if you don't turn the forms in, you don't practice. Yeah. But it was, a huge core of parents, and then, someone in charge of food. And then we had a fundraising person, there's huge amounts of money involved. The budget is just, we're talking in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Not hours, tens of thousands of
dollars.
Interesting.
For a program like Berkeley High.
That makes you pause. Okay.
Yeah.
For Berkeley High. I mean, one of the treats is going to the high school state tournament. So they stay overnight, and they leave Friday entire night lodging and food. The motel bill was $13,000.
How many kids are you talking about?
4 teams.
4 teams. 14
4
16?
teams of probably 22 or 24.
Okay.
Yeah. So
90?
Yeah.
90?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So one thing that comes to mind with all this, how did you coordinate the communication? What was your communication vehicle with this?
Google Docs.
Was it Google Docs? It wasn't TeamSnap. It was Google Docs?
Google Docs.
Okay.
And Facebook.
Facebook.
Parent
Okay.
group.
Good. Yeah.
Parent groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, when we went to Westerns, we saw more experienced teams from the Pacific Northwest, more established teams, and we went, wow, we want to be like that someday.
What were they doing that?
Because, well, they were like Berkeley High is now. And we aspired to be like them because they were so coordinated and they had everything down. They had the canopy tent. They had the folding chairs, the long bench of folding chairs, and they had everything.
Very nice. Yeah.
Well, I think the predecessor to Berkeley High is we learned a lot from Alameda Dark Meat, from a lot of the parents, Susan Policanis and JT and Dearling's mom,
Very cool.
Mo. We learned a lot from them at YCCs. We used to barbecue hamburgers at YCCs. We bought grills, we barbecued, made the hamburgers, and fed the kids that way because it was much cheaper than catering food.
Sure. That's
And
great.
now, the past few years, we've catered food. We get tents from people living in the area, and it's Jennifer's husband Andrew does the Costco run, and we've had everything down to a science. It was a huge endeavor.
But I do have to say, with a program that you have like 25, whatever kids on your team or something like that, there is a core group of parents that are always there, and there's some that I've never seen
There's
too.
88.
So I think you need to. I think it's
How many
really
parents are
our outreach is a big thing because I think every parent
4
needs to be.
Right, you have 4 teams, roughly 90 kids. You said they had to go all stay in the hotel. How many of the parents of those 90 kids are actually out at all the games, active? I'm just curious when you're doing this, how did you create this, group that, or is it the same small 5 or 10 parents that are doing everything?
No, it's more than that.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to understand.
But it is not everyone.
Right.
There are parents who I've been on a team with for 4 years and I have not ever met. So and I pretty much go to all their tournaments. So it's
we're a young Bentley's
but
a
I
young
think that's
team,
as a parent, I think that's where we have to go is outreach to these parents that don't go and really encourage this is a great sport. Come and watch your kid play and see what it's all about.
Right, with any sport, you're going to find there's.
Of course, in
anything
anything you're going to find that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Anything.
And so what we're trying to figure out as part of this discussion, some of the takeaways are how do you take the rabid few and then pull in some of the other fringes and make this a bigger sport? And this is very interesting. Now, what's your challenges? Because you're probably one of the more vocal.
All of those. We're bootstrapping it, but I'm used to that in that soccer has always required that everything's volunteer. You have to have the team doesn't even get a schedule until you have a team manager in place, someone who's in charge of field maintenance, someone who's in charge of safety. But you have all these jobs, so you can't even field a team. So part of it is setting up an infrastructure that there are rules if you want to play, like you said, the forms. Every tournament, I'm chasing waivers. Hey guys, I still need that waiver. And that's part of, because at O'Dowd there is a student, a senior, captain, and he does did a lot of the communications. There's also a faculty moderator, and he's just sort of the adult and there to keep things in line. But there is a lot of moving parts in terms of just logistics. You guys want to play in Spaghetti Western? We needed to sign up for that yesterday. Kind of, it's like someone needs to keep an eye on the deadlines and get everything in, get the money in, and then collect the money. And so I think it's because it's sort of, this is the good and the bad about it, right? It's loose in that way, and that's fun and good sometimes, and then it's not when you're trying to do all of these things. So we're facing all of those challenges. We got really super lucky, and Hank said, look, if you can get field space from O'Dowd, and I thought, great, we're never going to get field space from O'Dowd. Lo and behold, we got field space on Sunday. He said, I'll bring my middle schoolers and I'll coach them with great. And then jerseys, I have to say, because I did this at Evia, get the guys cool jerseys, and they will come. They will come. I have people that are on the roster that all they did was buy a jersey. I've never seen them. Because the jerseys are so cool. And so Boone Technical is amazing. They have great designers. I give them a good logo and a little bit of direction, and they come back with these amazing things. It's a little plug. That the kids are so stoked about. So the minute you do that, they do feel like they're a team. They're part of something, and they look good on the field. But we're all of that. And then I wonder, I have questions too, like with Berkeley being the powerhouse that it is now and the longevity, why isn't it taken as more, not fully sanctioned, but into the athletic department fold?
I think
that's a good lead-in, because that's my question is you know, we talk about parent involvement, we talk about parents can only support so much. The reality is this is a sport that's growing. I'm an outsider coming in the first year. I see it growing. I see professional being played internationally. I see it being played in this country. I see it in almost every college has ultimate clubs. My question as an outsider coming into this is, it's so popular. The demands of this sport are equal to playing soccer or any other team sport. These kids run their hearts out. They are much athlete as any other sport. They work just as hard. They practice just as hard. Yet not these high schools, not these colleges, nobody will sit there that I've seen and support this as a sport. They won't put up the money for it. I've heard of some colleges that say, well, if you're a club and you can ask for some money to help support some things, maybe they'll help with the jerseys or something like this. But in our school's case, we have one field. And fighting for time in that field is a virtual impossibility. It's one field. To try it back to your basic. The basic is, how can these kids practice unless they have the place to practice? And the schools don't support it. And the schools don't support the fact that they need uniforms, or they should have first aid, or something when they're on the field. These kids beat the heck out of themselves on these fields, especially on this AstroTurf. Right. So why can't the school support it? Why can't, I've been, like you said, Lawrence, I've been an advocate subtly in our school, kind of getting the other parents to kind of keep pushing a little bit, the athletic director and people, school administration, to come out and look at it, watch it. Maybe you can help a little bit. We actually had the athletic director come out to the state championships and watch 2 games. He was pretty amazed. So subtly, slowly, if you have some parents, you have some people to keep pushing the issue. But what I keep hearing is, well, it takes one of the high schools to do it. And if one high school does it, you know what? The next one's going to do it, the next one, the next one, the next one. But it takes one high school to step up to the plate and start saying, you know what? We're going to put a little bit of money into it. It's not at Berkeley where it takes $13,000 overnight. We went to the state championships. We drove down, we came home, drove back, came home. Yeah, we got to get up early. But the point was that it doesn't take a lot of money to give them uniforms or to give them, and these kids feel like a team. Why did they get the uniforms this year? Because they were all in different T-shirts and playing. I didn't know who was on which side and who was doing what. Once they had a uniform, all of a sudden these kids feel like, hey, we're a team. We can be a team. We act like a team now. We all have the same colored jersey on. And, so that's important. It's a starting point. But parents, in my mind, only do so much. And you really need the colleges, and I know I'm getting ahead of the schools, and it starts at the high schools, to me, or maybe the middle schools, to start putting up a little bit of time, energy, and maybe a little bit of funding to really push this into what needs to be a recognized sport, because it really is a sport. We're ignoring the fact that it's really a sport.
The only issue is, the school district falls under the state of California. So you can't, Berkeley High can't say we're making this official team sport, because it has to go through the whole process with the state. Right. And it's the same with college. If it becomes a sport, then it's under the regulation of the NCAA, which all of a sudden, all this criteria, there's more complexities. Right. So I think in the long run, it's a shame that it's not recognized as a school sport, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and it has to be a statewide deal. It's not Berkeley Unified.
I see the voices have seen it, yes.
Well, and that could be true. I don't know how the private schools work, but there's certainly a lot of private school clubs. And so maybe, I don't know if they have the same rules or whether they have to. They're not under a state sanction, they're under certain rules. But if a couple of the private schools start to, it gets a ball rolling. I mean, somewhere, my point is, you're right, nothing's ever simple. It takes time, it takes an ear. and it takes a ball rolling. And a stone, like they say, sitting still never moves. If it starts rolling down the hill, it's going to keep rolling. It will gain momentum. So somewhere, somehow, it's got to start the process because it's been around this sport for a while and it's been building. And you can watch professional teams in Oakland and San Jose play right here in California. So somewhere, somebody's got to pick up that little bit of banner and start that ball rolling down the hill so that it can get picked up. Because frankly, my daughter made a comment, there's no award ceremony, the athletic awards ceremony at the end of the year for the athletes. The kids playing Ultimate aren't even part of that. Why? Because it's not a sport. So
that was a little bit odd.
But those are things that, like I said, it needs to be recognized. How it gets recognized more, I don't know exactly. But somewhere it's a group of parents from maybe different parts of the community. Somewhere, I think it should be more recognized. The kids are working hard.
There's a couple things. One, I like your passion. That's why I'm glad you're on my team, or your kid's on my team. So let's put a push pin on that one because I know we're running out of battery life and that sort of thing. But we got so many topics here, and I know this is going to happen with so many voices, which I'm excited about. But technology is bringing the show, and it's also hampering the show. So one of the things I wanted to touch on is, and when we were talking about social emotional learning and spirit of the game, was the 2015 mixed final of Washington Bay Area, Washington D.C. versus the Bay Area, which is great. And I see some, because you guys are there.
Oh, you're talking about swing.
Yes,
swing
exactly.
Swing vote.
So I just want to say I want to talk about that, but I don't think we have enough time to embrace that. So I want to say, because it was so juicy, so I apologize. So I wanted to say that it was an amazing story. And if you get a chance to read about this and see the video on this game, you should. 2015 mixed final. It was YCC U16,
U20
mixed. And Washington, D.C. versus the Bay Area. What was the team?
Happy Cows.
Happy Cows. You should go check it out. I just want to say that I wanted to address it because it was an amazing game. So before we run out of time, a couple of things I want to talk about is we touched on lessons learned about where this was, where your feelings are about the school. But what has been sort of your lessons learned as a noob so far, going in and say new, I say that as you're a very vocal, you've got a great kid who's going to be even more seasoned, but you sort of putting your toe in the water, what has been a big lesson learned from this experience, these initial experiences?
A lot can be accomplished when there's serious passion behind something. And I think that is, this is why when there are things that people say like, oh, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. Kind of these adages. So when that's behind you, you just one foot in front of the other, day after day after day after day. I don't, and the kids go, we're never going to have a team. They get a little deflated when enough guys won't show up for a tournament, or gals. We don't have any gals yet. We hope to get some, but they get a little deflated. And I'm like, Rome was not built in a day. We're going to do this every day. We're just going to get up. And they're just like, And so to me, it is another reminder that with a lot of passion, of course you have to have the hard work. Sure. You have to have the willing and talented kids. But the passion drives everything. It's like, it's worth it. Because and this is what I have to say to Jackson, my son, I have to say, think about it. If we do this, when we do this, you're going to look back. Sure. Aren't you going to be happy that you got to play, that this was accomplished? Yes, of course. But it's the passion. I think if it was just something that was rote, I wouldn't.
The story's not.
I wouldn't. It would have a completely different impact on me. It's not that I'm afraid of hard work. It would be very different.
Very cool. Very good. And thank you for your efforts, Liane.
I think Ultimate has shaped who our kids are.
Yeah. They're solid boys.
Such a big part of their lives.
Yeah.
It's shaped their values, and it's motivated them to do other things in their lives because, like schoolwork always came before Ultimate. So schoolwork got done because they wanted to go out and play. Good. And it continues to be such a big part of their lives and kind of drive who they want to be and what they want to do. So it's all good.
Very good. Beautiful. You want to chime in?
Yeah, Ultimate will keep my younger son in college for 4 years.
Yeah.
you know. And
Was there doubt in that? That would the ultimate.
no.
Okay.
And possibly a 5th year.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's what I meant.
It's an ultimate.
Yeah, because of ultimate.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
That's
Okay.
what's diminishing
That's
returns.
fine.
and,
Yeah.
and I actually would
Maybe
rather.
grad school.
I prefer to see my kids play ultimate than ride a bike. I mean, so I'm willing to sacrifice to go to a tournament, to sacrifice 2 or 3 days of bike riding. Yeah, that's how much I enjoy it.
And I don't know if you remember, I've had great conversations while I'm playing your kid, and there's Paul just talking about life with you, so I've enjoyed those conversations, and there's observations. Jennifer?
Lessons learned in this whole process. Well, I mean, I have just seen so many children bloom into really strong human beings who are passionate and engaged in so many, and not just ultimate, but ultimate is part of it, and I think it's the field that allowed them to be that way. So it's a great sport for it. It was inclusive, and it had a place for everyone, and it had a place for girls on boys teams, and it's been a great opportunity to see the community grow. I mean, it's a huge community here now.
Yeah.
It started very small, and it has blossomed into this huge.
Very, very well. Yeah.
You know, Bay Area Disc has done a great job of developing youth.
And I'm just going to say, and to create, I mean, and expose, and really, I say expose positively that you guys are part of a solid part of the community, and you're great faces of the community. So it's been great about that. That's my takeaway. What I've been able to introduce to you guys, Robert.
I could sum it up. It's just improved the quality of life. I mean, it's kind of a summation of the whole thing. I mean, playing ultimate, being there, watching it. I mean, I've been at pretty much every game, a lot of practices, just there to kind of be a rooter and watch it. I mean, I like watching it. I mean, it's just improved the whole. Yeah, it is. It's intensive because it's always going, it's always moving. It's just, to me, it's improved the quality of life for these kids in general. Just the whole quality of life is improved by playing ultimate. So that's kind of my summary of a lesson.
That's very cool.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
While we have time. Absolutely.
Okay.
Please.
If you had a group of people sitting around a table and their task was to come up with the perfect sport that was inclusive and competitive, but was spirited and taught a lot of things.
Right.
It would be ultimate. It would be something very similar to ultimate, because there are so many different components that exist that aren't in other sports. So it's there.
Well, I want to say on that note, I could not have wrapped up so eloquently and beautifully as Liane has. So I'm going to say Lawrence McKenna for Scooberlicious Ultimate. I'd like to say thank you to Michelle, Liane, Paul, Jennifer, and Robert. I thank you for being good sports and victims of this vision. I'd say we've only touched a little bit of so many topics. So I know there's going to be a round 2 that's going to come around the corner, but I want to say thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And if there's any questions you'd like to pose online later, we'll all be here and we're ready to answer them for you. So thank you. We'll see you down the road. Take care.